Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. This is Lee Brecheen with the Sports Scouting Report. We've got a great show today. Hope everybody's going to enjoy it. I'm sure some people will, but we're going to have our recruits of the week, two big-time recruits. One's from Lafayette, Louisiana, we're going to introduce later, committed to LSU. Saige Ryan, not committed to LSU, but I think he will be committed to LSU at some point. And then we have a second recruit from a small high school in Louisiana, a very underrated recruit by the name of Clyde from Silliman High School right outside of Clinton, Louisiana. Silliman is an MAIS school. They don't play in the LHSA. They have their own league. We'll talk about Silliman, give them some props. Also, we're going to talk a little NCAA basketball. They've got Florida Gators is in the news. They lost a big-time point guard. Their point guard, Andrew Nembhard, is going to be leaving after pulling his name out of the draft as a true sophomore. I think it's a huge loss. We're also going to talk about the Mlb Draft a little bit, which is scheduled for June the 10th. It's going to be a 5-round draft, and it's interesting, for the first time since 1965, it's going to be a 5-round draft, and that'll be very interesting. We're going to go ahead and get into the meat of our show in our first segment. We're going to go talk about our first recruit, and we also have on our show a big-time guest, former LSU quarterback Jeff Wickersham, who played quarterback at LSU, and Jeff was a big-time player in high school, was a Parade All-American from Merritt Island, Florida. Jeff's daughter is a starting softball player for LSU, and his son is a big-time quarterback for Archbishop Rummel that's going to be a senior this coming year in 2021 class. But we're going to go and talk about our Recruit of the Week, Recruit Spotlight in segment 1, and that's going to be Clyde from Silliman High School, a kid that I was able to see on film, full game film, 2 games from 2019. This is a very interesting story for their listeners. If you're driving in your car or on your computer, or you just listen to us on your cell phone at home. This is a kid that lived with his family in Colorado when he was younger. They lived in Houston, Texas for a long time. Moved to Baton Rouge and enrolled at the no longer Christian Life, then it became Church Academy, was a freshman there, so didn't play any football his freshman year. His sophomore year, enrolled at Dunham High School. Church Academy closed, so he enrolled at Dunham High School, where he was going to probably start, but hurt, tore his meniscus, and had to sit out his sophomore year. And so the family moved to Clinton, St. Francisville area, and enrolled at Silliman. And last year, in 2019, Clyde had his first year and had a phenomenal season. And this is a typical recruit that really didn't get a lot of tape till last year as a junior. Didn't have any sophomore film or freshman film. Going into his senior season in 2020 for Silliman High School in the MAIS League, he's going to be, basically for his team, he's like an outside linebacker, which is really a strong safety position for college. And offensively, he'll play receiver. He can play running back. He could play quarterback if needed. This kid runs a legit 4.5 40. He's a heck of an athlete. And if you see him on film, I'm so impressed with this kid. He's got the it factor. He's a little faster. He anticipates better than most kids on the field. I think he's a legitimate D1 player. If Clyde, example, if he was playing at Parkview Baptist in Baton Rouge, or if he was playing at West Monroe or Archbishop Rummel, he would still be a D1 prospect. He's just a hidden gem. He's 6 foot. about 175 in weight, pushing 180, going into his senior year. Big-time physical kid, too. So, I mean, he loves to hit. I think he'll be a strong safety in college, even though he plays everywhere for Silliman. But strong safety, I think he's a starter in D1 football. And just remember that name, Elijah Clyde from Silliman High School. I have him as an athlete / strong safety. Really a diamond in the rough. You know, I mean, here's a kid you got to watch him play. Don't get caught up into his hand times or camps and stuff like that because he looks a lot faster in a uniform. And I always tell people, when you look fast on the field in pads, that's the real football player. But this kid has a chance to be one of the best players in the MAIS league, which is combined with a lot of Mississippi teams. And he's got a chance to be one of the best players in the league this coming season. And, you know, this is the same league that produced Stephen Ridley. Remember him, running back LSU? Will Overstreet played in this league out of Mississippi, went to Tennessee, was an All-American. They've had several players, especially from the Mississippi schools, go D1 and do well. And they've got some good players in the state this year in the MAIS league. You know, it's a private league, and it gets confusing because then they have another league, which is six-man football, on top of this league. So there's all types of football in Louisiana. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back in segment 2, I'm going to promote our second recruit spotlight of the week, and that's going to be Saige Ryan from Lafayette Christian. We also got Jeff Wickersham calling in to the show, former LSU quarterback, and also Major League Baseball and college basketball talk. We'll be right back.
Hello, Louisiana Football Magazine fans. Like what you're hearing? Well, you're going to love our content on LAFootballMagazine.com. This week we have 2 recruit spotlights on St. James defensive end Savion Jones, who just committed to the LSU Tigers this past week, and also one of the best athletes in the state in Catholic Point Capiz, Matthew Langlois. Finally, make sure to check out not only today's podcast, but Mondays as well. So what are you waiting for? And go to LAFootballMagazine.com today.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great Monday all over the country and in our special state of Louisiana, too. And you're listening to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. Be sure to download our show and also hit follow. This Friday, we're going to talk about the strongest kids in the state, kids that are the strongest kids in the state, pound for pound, the strongest kids in the state in the bench press, the clean, and also the squat, all in the weight room for high school football, which I think is important because these maxes are real. You know, when you squat 500-600 pounds, not a lot of people can do that. When you clean 300 in high school, not a lot of people can do that. When you can bench 350 and be a DB or a receiver, not many kids can do that in high school. And so there's some that can do that. And O&D linemen that are benching 400 pounds in high school, these are you guys that are going to be benching 500-600 pounds in college. And all my strength coaches that are listening know this, that if you're benching 415, and you're a 270-pound kid in high school, you got a good chance to hit that 500, 550 mark in college, which not a lot of kids do, and 600 pounds. 600 pounds max on a bench is very rare in college. You see that from people that are, you know, in their early 30s that are, you know, been lifting weights for forever, competition. Some of these strongest men awards, some of these strongest man, you know, you see that on ESPN. Some of those guys bench like 650, 700 pounds, 800 pounds. But again, for a high school kid to do that is there are very few of them that can. We're going to get back to our second recruit spotlight of the week, and it's a very special player, Saige Ryan, a DB out of Lafayette Christian. His true height is around 5'10 and a half, a little over 5'10, about 190. Saige Ryan, if you're listening to this and you've never seen him play, I've seen this kid play about 10 times over 4 years. And I remember going to Lafayette Christian High School 4 years ago. And I told Trev Falk, former LSU linebacker, the head coach, I said, Trev, I'm going to come see you today. I want to talk to you, go over your team, and I've got some time. And I was in Lafayette hitting a bunch of schools, and I went in the gym, and me and Trev sat down, Trev Falk, and I looked at Trev, and I said, Trev, do you have a great player coming up in the next 4 years, like a great one, somebody that's going to be phenomenal? This is 4 years ago. And Trev looked at me and he said, Lee, my nephew. And he started laughing. And I started laughing because basically, people always recommend their relatives and, they're not as good as they say they are. But Trev looked at me and he said, let me tell you something. My nephew, who's a freshman, going to be a freshman, Saige Ryan's going to be phenomenal. And Trev was right. And ever since this kid's freshman season, he has dominated. What makes Saige Ryan so special, especially since he's not but about 5'10" and a half in height, is that he reminds me between a Ronnie Lott and a Mike Singletary. Especially our older listeners remember Mike Singletary with the Bears linebacker and Ronnie Lott. And what he reminds me, not in their stature, but in the way he's focused, in the way that he's tough. He's got a toughness level which is way above most kids in Louisiana. He's got an IQ of the game, which is far more advanced than most of the kids on the field. And when he squares up to come after you, to hit you, you better get on the ground because it's not going to be nice. I mean, this kid, when he hits, he wraps you up. You don't get away. It's glue. And you don't see that in high school. You don't see perfect tackling. You don't see someone that reads everything. And he closes. What I mean by that, on run plays, pass plays, he sees the ball and gets to the ball, and it's over. He takes over a game. And he's so special that he'll play 4 positions for Lafayette Christian this coming season. And don't get caught up in that if he plays some quarterback, if he plays receiver, he'll return punts, kickoffs. It's just he's a great athlete. And his position for college, to me, is nickel corner and strong safety. Strong safety is really his spot. He's listed 5'11", 6 foot. Like I said, he's about 5'10" and a half, or right at 5'10". But I don't care about that because he's a special, unique player. Saige has got the ability to dominate a game. And you don't see many 5'10" DBs that good. I mean, they don't recruit 5'10" DBs like this. When he comes downhill, I'm telling you, he's the best tackler in the state. I think Kane Williams from John Ehret's phenomenal, but Kane's more of a true safety, so they're not the same position. Saige is the best strong safety in the state. Kane Williams from John Ehret's the best free safety. But as far as a tackler, as far as his ability to hit, Saige is the best in the state. And that's why he's ranked so high, people. I want you to know that if you've never seen him play. He's special. He has a 3.0 GPA. He's qualified for college. If you get a chance to go to see Lafayette Christian in Lafayette, Louisiana, go check him out. I mean, he's a very, very, very rare young man. You can tell he grew up in a family where his uncle, Trev Falk, has obviously taught him a lot. His sister has an athletic background. I mean, his mom has an athletic background. But, he has a Ronnie Lott build, basically. Ronnie wasn't that tall from the San Francisco 49ers. Singletary was undersized, but that intensity, that hard-hitting commitment to the game and his ability to just take over, that's what LSU sees in him. That's what Alabama offered him. That's what everybody has offered Saige. And they know he can come right in and start and be a part of the defense right away. This guy is not somebody that you say, okay, we're going to redshirt you. You're going to wait your turn. No. this guy's going to play right away. He's got a little bit of Ed Reed in him, I guess, too. I mean, I'm just naming all the great ones because he's not – Ed Reed was about 5'11". But what a very, very big-time football player. And, he runs legitimate 4.45 in the 40. And for a safety that's pushing 190, that's pretty impressive. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to have former LSU quarterback Jeff Wickersham. We'll be right back.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today. It's time for the Human Touch.
Welcome back. You're listening to Lee Brecheen with the Sports Scouting Report. I'm really honored today to have a special guest that I grew up watching as a kid, as a young teenager. I remember the Orange Bowl, and I know a lot of LSU listeners remember Alan Risher in '82, but in 1982 they signed a big-time quarterback out of Merritt Island, Florida, by the name of Jeff Wickersham, and Jeff was Alan Risher's backup as a freshman. And I wanted to go ahead and say thank you. Jeff Wickersham joins us today. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lee.
Look, man, I mean, this is the first time that we've actually talked over a phone, but I grew up watching you play, and we're going to talk about your son, Kyle, that's going to be a phenomenal quarterback this coming year at Rummel, Archbishop Rummel. Your daughter has got her own legacy, too, at LSU as a softball pitcher, Shelby. And we'll talk about her, but I want to get into about your background and, all these young kids that are listening, a lot of these kids that are, we were, around 15, 20 years before some of our listeners were born. But a little stat, you threw for 6,921 yards at LSU. You were the first quarterback at LSU to throw for over 5,000 yards in your career. You had 3 seasons, over 2,000 yards, the first LSU quarterback to do that. And the first LSU quarterback to throw for over 2,500 yards in a season. And I remember your '82, you were a freshman then and didn't play much, but what was it like in '82 going to the Orange Bowl against Nebraska, Jeff, coming right out of Merritt Island, Florida?
It was a surreal experience. Like you said, I didn't play a whole lot, but I got to get in on some of the mop-up duties and some of the games, and to play in the game against Florida State, at home that night in the fog with all the oranges raining down on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Just unbelievable experience. And I actually learned a lot from Alan Risher by getting that year behind him and watching and seeing how he operated and how he ran the offense. And so it really did help me a lot. And just a tremendous experience just to be able to play for LSU, let alone go play in the Orange Bowl, which was quite exciting.
Jeff, to me, that was the best Nebraska team in the history of Nebraska football, I thought, in '82. Would you agree with that?
I would. They were as good as any team I've ever seen or played against. Had so much talent and were very deep. They were at least 3 deep across the line, and their third guy was probably just as good as his first guy. A tremendous team, and was a lot of fun to play against because they were so good.
Yeah, that whole O-line went in the first round. I tell people all the time, you don't see a whole starting 5 offensive line go in the first round. Dean Steinkühler and Dave Remington, Turner Gill, Tom Rathman, Irving Fryer. People forget Tom Rathman was the fullback on that team. He didn't even play a lot. And
That's right.
You had all that talent on one field, and they had a ton of defensive talent too. But Still upset LSU lost that game.
Yeah, you and me both.
And the Tulane game that year, and also
Right.
Mississippi State, Dana Moore. But anyway, I thought it was one of the best LSU teams too, in my opinion, ever.
I think so. I'd have to agree with you on that. We had tremendous amount of talent. We could play with anybody and did play with all of them. We lost a couple games, like you said, that I don't think we should have, but that's what happens. And we had a tremendous amount of talent on that team that went to the NFL and played for years. So yeah, it was fun to be a part of that, especially coming in as a freshman, having no experience at all, and then being put on the field with all these types of athletes. Quite a good experience for me.
And Jeff, what I remember, again, clearly watching these games on TV, this is when TV exploded and they actually started having ESPN, but 1984, y'all go to the Rose Bowl and beat USC and beat them pretty handily. Probably the most lopsided loss USC's had at home in a long time, but that was a pretty good team at USC. They had Jack Del Rio was on that team and several other future coaches. But what was it like going to USC playing in Los Angeles?
It was great. I mean, that was a dream when you're growing up to actually play in that bowl against USC, who at that time was a really good football team and had been for years. So it was it was daunting running out of that chute. Nothing like running out of LSU chute. There's no place in the country you could play that even comes close. But it was really neat to be able to go out there and beat them on their home field. And with the storied history that they have, and we beat them, like you said, pretty handily. Well, luckily we had a really good team. Also, we had some great players on that team that just could go out and compete against anybody in the country on any weekend. So yeah, that was a highlight of my career. Definitely going out there and beating them.
It was funny watching TV, seeing more LSU fans in the stadium at USC than USC fans.
Absolutely, and that happened in a lot of places we played. We brought a tremendous crowd. Our fans are so rabid and so devoted, and it just made it fun. We would go, and wherever we played, we were basically the home team.
In 1985, y'all beat Notre Dame. That was ranked pretty heavily too in a close game. And but I wanted to ask you, what made you sign with LSU? It's not every day LSU goes into Florida and sign. You were a big deal in high school football. You were highly recruited in Florida out of Merritt Island. But what made you go to LSU? And I guess I don't know if people's asked you this, but was there another team that you were thinking of signing with? Was it the Gators or Miami or Florida State?
No, I was recruited by those schools, but my second choice was Stanford.
Okay.
I'd actually gone out and taken an official visit at Stanford. Really liked it. John Elway was my host.
Oh man.
And just a great guy, and kind of took me around the whole weekend. So that was my second choice. But the reason I chose LSU was we used to go in high school and always watch the bowl game in Orlando, and it seemed like every other year LSU was playing in it. They had a long history of really good quarterbacks, and so we would go to that game in Orlando and kind of get to meet the fans. We'd be walking around outside before the game, and they were so inviting. Hey, come over here, try some of this. And we were just a couple of high school kids. Right. And they took us in, and I was like, man, these people are crazy. They got such a good time. The food's awesome. I said, if I ever get a chance, I'm going to go to LSU. And take a visit just to see what it's all about. So I did go on an official visit to LSU. Unfortunately, they weren't having that good of a year that year. The year before I got there, and they were struggling. And the same thing, you walk out of the chute before a game, and there's I forget what the capacity was at that time, but they filled the stadium, and they were crazy, and it was just a wild atmosphere. And I said, God, can you imagine if these guys were winning, what it would be like? I mean, they fill the stadium when they're having a tough year. And then Mac Brown was my quarterback coach. He was in Merritt Island all the time recruiting me. I had a really good relationship with him. And then when I met Stovall, I liked him a lot. And then, of course, LSU's history and tradition. That's what got me there. And thank goodness I did go to LSU. It made a huge difference in my life, and I'll always be grateful to LSU.
You were listening to Jeff Wickersham, former LSU quarterback for LSU. We're going to take a break. Jeff, stay on the line. When we come back, we're going to talk about his son, Kyle Wickersham. And he's a big-time quarterback to me at Archbishop Rummel. Is going to be a senior, class of 221. And also his daughter is a big-time pitcher at LSU, Shelby Wickersham. And just a tidbit before we take a break, Jeff was a 10th-round draft pick of the Miami Dolphins and played for Ottawa in the Canadian Football League.
Hello, Louisiana Football Magazine fans. Like what you're hearing? Well, you're going to love our content on LAFootballMagazine.com. This week, we have 2 recruit spotlights on St. James defensive end Savion Jones, who just committed to the LSU Tigers this past week, and also one of the best athletes in the state in Catholic Point Capiz, Matthew Langlois. Finally, make sure to check out not only today's podcast, but Mondays as well. So what are you waiting for? And go to LAFootballMagazine.com today.
Welcome back, Louisiana Sports, Louisiana Football Magazine. Go to our website and pre-order copies, LAFootballMagazine.com. You're listening to Sports Scouting Report. We've got Jeff Wickersham, LSU. Jeff, your son, I told you a story earlier that I went to one of his games 2 years ago when he was a sophomore at Jesuit, and I was so impressed with him playing on special teams as a quarterback, as a special teams gunner, and he was one of the first kids down the field, and back then he was 6'2", over 200 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big kid. He's 6'3", about 225 now, and I always had played linebacker and running back prior to getting into high school. So he's got the linebacker mentality while playing quarterback now. Just recently started, honing his quarterback skills. Kind of wish I would have got him started earlier, but I think it's also a good thing that he's a tough guy, really tough player that learns how to play the game as a running back and a linebacker. So he's still pretty green at quarterback, but he's coming along and making a lot of progress.
Well, Kyle impresses me with his toughness, and Jeff, I watched him play last year in 3 games. Obviously I was big on Jamar Chase before he became the big name he is. I thought Jamar was a phenomenal receiver, and now, they have another receiver going, LSU, Corey Moore, that your son threw to last year. They lost a lot of talent, but I think your son showed me a lot in toughness. And do you agree, Jeff, playing quarterback, that it's good to be in a balanced offense and not a shotgun where you can be under center and learn that in high school like he's doing in this offense?
I do. I like it. I sure wish I would have been able to throw from the shotgun. I never took a snap from the shotgun, and that would have been really nice to already be back there and set up and looking downfield without having to take a drop. But no, I like the rumble offense a lot. I think those guys do a tremendous job, and they kind of work around the talent they have. Corey Moore was a tremendous wide receiver. We also had another, couple receivers on our team last year that were exceptional. So, but then you got Logan Diggs as a running back, and we had a couple other guys that could run with the ball. So I think they've done a really nice job of melting all the talent they have together and making it work. And of course, having a defense like they had last year certainly helps things also.
Jeff, the defense for Rommel lost 7 players that signed scholarships, which you don't see that every day. You didn't see that when you played. I mean, off of one team, one season, seven players signing scholarships. So I know the defense is going to need some time to gel and grow up, and the offense obviously is going to be more experienced. And Diggs is, I think, a big-time player too. Your son is 6'3", 225. What is it looking like in recruiting right now, and who's shown the most interest? And look, I think it's still early. We're in this social media day where people think you need an offer, in 2 years before, but I think it just matters where you go in the end, right?
I agree with you 100%. He's got, he's received a lot of offers from some really exceptional schools. So he could just, pick where he wanted to go. I think he's got 16 or 17 offers right now. So, and a lot of them are really excellent schools, but he's gonna take his time and try to go look at some of these schools before making a decision. He's got some interest from, some Power 5 schools. He's got a couple offers from them. He's got a bunch of offers from the Ivy League schools, Richmond, so he's got some great options already. But he's, like I said before, he's still very green as quarterback position. He's got a lot of improvement left in the tank. Whereas I think a lot of these guys that start playing quarterback at 7 years old, they're about as polished as they're going to get coming out of high school, where he has a high ceiling that he's not even close to reaching yet. So I think, with this next year coming up, last year was his first year playing quarterback, of any significance, and first year starting. So he learned, he had a couple hard knocks and learning, getting through it, but I thought he had a really good year overall. And I saw a lot of improvement every week, and that's all he's looking to do. Just keep improving, and everything will take care of itself in the long run. He'll end up where he's supposed to go, and it doesn't matter where he goes. He's going to be happy and do his best wherever he ends up. So he's in no hurry to commit and make a decision.
And it's not bad to win a state championship your first year to start, right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have hoped or done anything more. You couldn't accomplish any more than what they did. And he was just very fortunate to be part of that team.
He reminds me a lot of Roethlisberger from the Steelers, the way he moves in the pocket where he can just knock people down and forearm. He's so tough.
Yeah, he does. He reminds me of that also.
He can delay that rush, because he's just not easy to bring down. And I think he's very underrated in the pocket with his feet. And like you said, this is going to be the year to really blow up. And the last thing for LSU fans about your son Kyle, what about LSU? Have you heard from the coaches? Have you heard from them at all?
They show some mild interest. I don't think they've got their quarterback this year with Nussmeier, but hopefully they'll give Kyle a chance to come in and compete. They lost another quarterback who transferred or got thrown off the team. I don't know, Parrish. So maybe they could see that hey, this guy could come in and he's got a lot left in the tank, a lot of room for improvement. Meanwhile Nussmeier is your guy, and then bring Kyle in. Kyle could even help him at tight end or special teams. So I got my fingers crossed, but if that doesn't happen, he'll have opportunities to go play elsewhere and make a team and hopefully make a big contribution to somebody who wants him.
Well, it's great. You have another kid on campus who could be his official visitor, like tour guide, is Shelby, your daughter, who's a pitcher. Unfortunately, her sophomore year, we didn't get to play it because of the virus, but her freshman year, she was 10-2 as a pitcher, with one save. I mean, as a freshman, 5'10", 5'11", you got to be proud that your daughter is actually one of the better pitchers at LSU for softball.
Oh, it was a tremendous year, freshman year, to have that kind of success. Now, granted, she's surrounded by some serious talent.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, she's not a real strikeout pitcher, but she does put the ball on the ground. She's a drop ball pitcher, so a lot of her pitches are going to be driven into the ground. So we've had some excellent fielders that really helped her out. And a lot of that, has to be attributed to the team surrounding her. This year she came in and was pitching even better. I mean, the LSU softball team this year through 25 games had the lowest ERA in the country. And Shelby had one of the top ERAs in the country and was I think 4-1 or something. So this would have been a tremendous year for LSU softball. It's just such a shame they got canceled and shut down 25 games in.
Jeff, how do you manage your time between going to Friday night games for Kyle, right, and then Saturday, Sunday, and Friday, and some midweek games for your daughter Shelby? You got to be booked for 7 days, huh?
Yeah, we are. It's a lot of fun, and I'm sure I'm going to miss it when it's over. Shelby's playing all the time with softball. I also have a younger daughter who's in 9th grade going into 10th that played for Mount Carmel volleyball. So that's a really hectic schedule. Lindsay's ended up playing and starting as a freshman with Mount Carmel. So that was a ton of fun to go watch her play every week. But it's a juggling act. Sometimes my wife and I will have to split up where, one will go to one event, the other goes to the other. So we try to shuffle it around and get to as many as we possibly can.
One last question for you. You had a chance to hand off to Dalton Hilliard, one of the greatest running backs ever to play at LSU. Everybody talks about Leonard Fournette being the best back. Some people, the late Billy Cannon, who was a friend of mine. But Dalton Hilliard still, in my eyes, is one of the best ever at LSU. Right, Jeff, at running back?
I'm with you 100% on that. I'm totally 100% biased. Dalton was the best running back I've ever seen in my life with my own eyes. It was unbelievable how he could stop and start on a dime and make people miss. Reminded me a lot of Barry Sanders as a running back. And I tell you, it was sure nice to be able to flip a little screen pass out to him and watch him take it 80 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, and his legs looked like trees. He was so strong in the lower body. You just couldn't. The first guy could never get him. And
no, nobody ever seemed like they got a good shot at him. He was bouncing off. He was making moves. He was a lot of fun to watch. After you hand it off, you're not supposed to watch a running back, but I always caught myself on film watching him make people miss, and just kept my eyes on him the whole way.
It was funny seeing Jack Del Rio bounce off on a USC game. Now he's a longtime coach. I mean, he was 6'4", 230, and couldn't bring down a guy 5'8", about 210. But
Yep.
Jeff, thank you for joining us, and I'm glad we were able to promote Kyle Wickersham, your son, who's going to be one of the elite players, I think, this year in the country, not just Louisiana. Shelby, your daughter, junior year's coming up. They're probably getting ready, trying to get ready for the next season, and your youngest daughter. So, look, good luck to everything, man. Y'all stay safe. And any final thoughts to any fans out there, LSU fans?
Well, I would just like to thank him again. It was such a tremendous honor to be able to play for LSU, and the fans still, it's amazing that some of them still even remember today, and that was so long ago. The best fans in the country, and thank you for supporting me and my kids, and look forward to getting back out there and watching some more LSU sports.
All right, go Rummel Red, go Raiders, man, and we'll talk to you again in the future. Jeff, take care. Thank you. That was Jeff Wickersham, former LSU quarterback. His son Kyle Wickersham is a big-time quarterback at Archbishop Rummel for the class of 221. And Shelby Wickersham's a pitcher at LSU. We'll be back in just a moment.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back, everyone. Going into segment 4, we've got our college football notes. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. I know everybody's back at work, and hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Be sure to hit follow and also download our show. That helps us grow. But I wanted to talk about the focus in our college football notes today for me is Nebraska and Scott Frost, the head coach. First of all, let me say this. A lot of our listeners, like myself, watched Scott Frost play quarterback at Nebraska when he was a quarterback. He won the national championship. A lot of people don't realize that, as the starting quarterback in 1997 under the legendary Tom Osborne. He was a phenomenal quarterback for Nebraska. Had a phenomenal season, kind of like Joe Burrow. Didn't have all the stats to back it because they ran the ball a lot. But he was a phenomenal athlete, like Joe. 6'3", 220 pounds, could run a 4.5. Didn't throw that much because Nebraska back then did not have to. Did a great job at Central Florida as the head coach, which is a different level of football. I mean, it's not Nebraska. But here's the deal. Nebraska's got to start showing that they're a top 10 program again soon, because these fans are starved for championships. And, growing up, like a lot of my listeners, Nebraska used to dominate college football. There was a time frame between the early to late 90s, late 80s. Tom Osborne was the best coach in college football. They had some of the best teams in college football, led by Mike Rozier, Tom Rathman, Irving Fryer, Turner Gill at quarterback, Dean Steinkuhler, Dave Remington, Mark Bean. All them three of those guys I just mentioned were O-linemen. All were drafted in the same year in the first round. Nebraska was just phenomenal. They could recruit everywhere and anywhere. That has fallen off. And going into year 3 for Scott Frost, this is his year. I mean, you don't get 5 years anymore to start saying, okay, I cleaned up everything, and I ran a few kids off. I cleaned up the roster. It's my team now. Well, this is the year. Bo Pelini, I thought, did a great job there. He had a winning record there, the new LSU D coordinator. Every coach since Tom Osborne really has stumbled to try and keep the Nebraska mesquite, the tradition up. I mean, this is a program that if they didn't win at least 10 games a year back when it was an 11-game season, it was a failure. You know, before they had 12 games, they would go 10-1 or 9-2 every year or win a national championship. But what's really interesting, they had 13 kids leave the team since the season ended. And this is not a team that was over the scholarship limit. You know, this was not a team where they were trying to get the numbers down. I mean, they had 13 kids, and I think that's a little high. They're lacking depth at positions still, a lot of positions. I know a lot of colleges lack depth at certain positions, but Nebraska's not in a position where they don't want to be. Put it this way, they have 8 linebackers coming back total to the team, and they've had 3 recruiting classes under Scott Frost. I mean, here's a guy who played there. You want him to do great. I mean, he was the Heisman Trophy winner quarterback for the program at one time. But they've got to keep the attrition down. I mean, good attrition is when you're running off a lot of players just to get your numbers down to reach your 85 scholarships. But recently they had a kid from Louisiana leave, Pernell Jefferson from Warren Easton, a linebacker, which they really could have used him to come back for depth. You know, he was the 9th linebacker. And they've had a lot of heck, they've even had 3 of their better walk-on O-linemen leave for scholarships, not counting the 13 scholarship players that left since the end of the season. And some of these guys, again, were people that were suspended or got in trouble, meaning it was not part of the process to get rid of someone. So, I mean, they can't afford any more players leaving the program. I mean, 13 is kind of at the limit with their roster. They're trying to build something. And, you know, let's just face it, Nebraska's not recruiting like LSU and Alabama and Georgia and Florida. And not even Tennessee, who's not even back in SEC. Tennessee's out recruiting in Nebraska. In Nebraska, you know, they're trying to stay alive in that Big Ten. I mean, it's tough. I mean, they've got to overtake Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. And right now, they're not even up there with Illinois and Indiana or Iowa. You know, even Northwestern. They're kind of in the bottom cellar of the conference. If you'd have told me this 20 years ago, and my listeners know this, I would have never thought Nebraska would have hit rock bottom like this. Now, I really hope Scott Frost can bring them back, but again, this is the year. They're going to have to do it with a no-name quarterback, no-name running backs, a question mark offense, and a defense that we don't know what they're going to have because they keep losing kids to graduation. They're still not building really any great, strong, dominant O or D lines. So anyway, I thought people would enjoy that about Nebraska. It's been a while. And he's also taken heat for losing Joe Burrow because Joe's brothers played at Nebraska, and they had the first crack at him, and they didn't want him. So, I mean, it's a tough spot for Scott Frost right now. But I loved him as a player when he played at Nebraska. I thought he did a great job at Central Florida. And you just hope he makes it because if this doesn't work, you know, Coach Callahan couldn't do it. When he was the coach there, former Oakland Raiders head coach, he couldn't make it go. You know, Pelini, he tried to get championships there. He was close, but he did have a winning record. You know, it's just hard. I mean, it's, you know, recruiting's not what it used to be at Nebraska. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little college basketball. We'll be right back.
Hello, Louisiana Football Magazine fans. Like what you're hearing? Well, you're going to love our content on LAFootballMagazine.com. This week, we have 2 recruit spotlights on St. James defensive end Savion Jones, who just committed to the LSU Tigers this past week, and also one of the best athletes in the state in Catholic Point Capiz, Matthew Langlois. Finally, make sure to check out not only today's podcast, but Mondays as well. So what are you waiting for? And go to lafootballmagazine.com today.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. We're going into segment 5 of our NCAA college basketball notes. Florida Gators, they're in the news. And, you know, if you read it online, they're losing a point guard by the name of Andrew Nembhard. Their starting point guard the last 2 years. And the way it reads like, well, you know, he was going to get beat out by a couple of young point guards coming up by the name of Trey Mann, who's an All-American coming in, 6'4", and Quez Glover, who's going to be a sophomore, 5'10". And then they got a guy named Tyree Appleby, who transferred, by the way, from Louisiana Tech, averaged 17 points a game at Louisiana Tech, 6'1". But look, anytime you lose your starting point guard for 2 years that didn't even miss a game, he started 67 games in 2 years, didn't miss a game. And I'm saying this for LSU fans. He beat LSU in 3 games the last 2 years. He penetrated, made free throws this year to beat LSU at Florida. He was the key to end the game. Went to the free throw line and sank everything. Drove to the basket, was dishing out to the right people, was getting the ball with assists. I mean, LSU could not guard Andrew Nembhard. And even when LSU beat Florida this past season at LSU, he had a good game. I mean, I like him, but he's decided to leave Florida. He put his name in the hat for the NBA draft where he pulled his name out. He's a true sophomore, and he's transferring to another program. But people act like it's so easy to replace your point guard that didn't miss a game in 67 games for the last 2 years. That's remarkable. And if you watch college basketball, the kid's really good. I mean, he averaged 11.2 points a game last year, but he passed the ball. He's a passer. He likes to, and when he shoots, he's good. But like I said, he helped beat LSU 3 times in the last 2 years. Two times in 2018. He was responsible as a true freshman in assists, points, and free throws by helping Florida beat LSU in 18 2 times, and in 19, you know, the season was cut short, but the regular season finished. We're going to take a break. When we come back for segment 6, we're going to talk a little MLB baseball. The draft is coming up. We're going to talk about the draft when we come back.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. If you're driving in your cars or trucks, be safe. Hope everybody's doing great at home, working. A lot of people still working out of the house like myself. If you're on your computer or cell phone, please tell other people about our show. Send them shows that we send to you. We're emailing a bunch of people. We're emailing about 5,000 people right now. And we have close to about 10,000 listeners. We just need more people to download the show. So we can grow and hit follow. For some reason, that's what they look at, the follows and the downloads. Our segment 6 is going to be about the MLB Draft, which is June the 10th. It's going to be 5 rounds. It's still going to be held in New Jersey, the studio, New Jersey, which I think is a great place for baseball. This is the shortest draft since 1965. And, it's going to have the first 37 picks will take place on the opening day. and the remainder on June 11th. That'll be the second day of the draft. The deadline for selected players to sign was pushed back from July 10th to August 1st. Detroit has the first pick, the Detroit Tigers. And then they're followed by Baltimore, Miami, and then Kansas City. Houston was stripped of its first and second round selections because of the penalties for the video camera still catcher signs. Boston lost its second round selection for improper use of video, just some tidbits. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be slot values determined signing bonus pools will remain at 2019 levels. And players passed over in the draft are limited to signing bonuses of $20,000 or less. That might cause more high school players to opt for college. And because of the NCAA's limit of 11.7 baseball scholarships, the change may lead, to more prospects attending junior college. You might see more of that. All but 6 of the last year's 6th-round draft picks signed for $200,000 or more. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with just 5 rounds. The pool is going to be pretty strong considering there's only 5 rounds, and you're going to see a lot of high school players sign. You're going to see some college guys come out that normally wouldn't because they got a chance to go in the first round. There's some talks. There might be more college players for the first time because they didn't get to scout the high school guys as good. With everything shut down, they couldn't scout these kids. They couldn't go time them or travel or do all that stuff. And I also want to mention that the MLB is proposing a 114-game season. The MLBPA is proposing that, and we'll see if that happens for this year. For 114 games was the counter proposal. And, we'll see what happens on that, which is the union's proposal would run from June 30th to October 31st, expected to, be immediately dismissed by the league, which the MLB has proposed an 82-game season and suggested that more games play this year, the more money they lose. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see about sports, and I think we're going to carry on. I think everything's going to happen. It's just once everything's agreed on in the next, I think, 2 or 3 weeks for NBA basketball, MLB, we'll see college football. Everything's going to be pretty much opening up, I think. I just think it will. I don't care how long these seasons are for MLB and NBA. I just hope they have them. I think the sport is going to help people. I think people need their hobbies. This is a hobby that means a lot to a lot of people. Outside of your family and, church, there's sports. Sports is a really big hobby for a lot of people. I hope everybody enjoyed the show today, and be sure, again, to download a show or hit follow. Write to us at lafootballmagazine.com. And look, be sure to pre-order your 2020 preview issue for the season. We're going to have all the high schools previewed, all 310 high schools, all 12 colleges. In depth, we're working on that as we speak right now. It's going to be a 140-page book, gloss, perfect bind. If you've never seen one, go to lafootballmagazine.com. You can't read the magazine online, but you can get an idea of what it's about. This is the 24th year, so it's our 24th annual preview issue. We only do one a year. But you can go on our website and pre-order a North copy and also a South copy. We do 2 magazines. The difference of the 2 magazines are the covers are different recruits from the north part of the state and the south part of the state. And we have a special section devoted to the south in one magazine and just devoted to the north in the other magazine. So be sure to pick up a copy, to get one, pre-order online. They're not ready, so you can pre-order right now for when they come out, which the earliest they'll come out is late August, as early and as late as September, early September. So because of the coronavirus, we're going to be probably 3-4 weeks later than we normally are getting it out, which is the norm of everything being a little bit pushed back. So, but we're excited about the preview magazine. We've interviewed close to 300 high school coaches. Me and Jace have talked to probably close to about 1,200 kids and parents since the last 3 months. And this is work that started a year ago from me going to about close to 100 games and practices, and Jace going to, about 30 games last year. So collectively, you're talking about 140 games viewed in person, 170, 180 total with the practices of the team. So a lot of hard work involved with the staff, and we haven't stopped one day working out of our house. Jace is working out of his. And just hopefully, everybody just get, support us and get the new issue, pre-order it on LAFootballMagazine.com. We'll see you Friday of this week, and we're looking forward to talking about the strongest kids in the state, pound for pound, in high school football. Everybody have a blessed Monday. We'll see you Friday.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.